Welcome to the Human Meme Podcast. I'm David Bowles, and today we're going to dig in to the dark matter of the universe. The 85%. In 1970, a woman named Vera Rubin pointed a spectrograph at the Andromeda Galaxy and found that it was wrong. Not the galaxy. The galaxy was doing what galaxies do. What was wrong was every prediction about how the galaxy should behave. The stars at the outer edge of Andromeda were moving too fast, not slightly too fast, not within the margin of error. They were moving as though something enormous was holding them in place, something with gravitational mass far exceeding everything visible in the galaxy combined. The stars were orbiting matter that no telescope on Earth or in orbit or conceivable within the laws of electromagnetic radiation could detect. Rubin published her findings. The physics community did what physics communities do when a woman presents evidence that the standard model is incomplete. They told her to check her equipment. She checked it. She observed more galaxies. She found the same result in all of them. Every galaxy she pointed her instrument at was embedded in a halo of invisible mass that outweighed the visible matter by roughly 6-to-1. She spent the rest of her career proving what the data had already shown her in 1970. She never received the Nobel Prize. She died in 2016. The evidence she gathered has since been confirmed by gravitational lensing surveys, the cosmic microwave background, the large-scale structure of galactic filaments, and the dynamics of galaxy cluster collisions. Every line of evidence converges on the same conclusion. 85% of the matter in the universe is dark, not dark as in unlit, dark as in fundamentally categorically invisible. It does not emit light. It does not absorb light. It does not scatter light. It interacts with ordinary matter through gravity alone, and through gravity it holds galaxies together, bends the paths of photons around massive objects, and provides the scaffolding on which every visible structure in the cosmos was formed. We are the froth. We are the 5% that happens to glow. I have been thinking about that ratio for a long time, not as physics, as philosophy, as a description of how knowledge works. Because what Vera Rubin actually discovered in 1970 was not a new kind of matter. What she discovered was a limit. She discovered that the instruments we had built to measure the universe were measuring only the part of the universe that cooperated with our instruments. The rest of it, the overwhelming majority of it, was doing something else entirely, and it had been doing it the whole time, and we had mistaken our inability to detect it for its non-existence. That is not just a finding in astrophysics. That is a statement about the human condition. We build instruments. We point them at the world. We measure what returns a signal. And we construct our understanding of reality from that signal alone, treating the absence of data as the absence of substance. We do this in science. We do it in medicine. We do it in economics. We do it in our relationships. We look at what we can see, and we build a model, and we call the model complete, and we are wrong every single time. 85% of what matters is dark. That is the ratio. Not just in cosmology. Everywhere. This is why I wrote The Dark Matter People. Not to explain dark matter. There are textbooks for that, and they are better at it than fiction will ever be. I wrote the novel because I wanted to know what happens to a person who discovers that the thing she has been trained to measure is not the thing that matters. What does it feel like, cognitively, emotionally, professionally, to look at your own data and realize that the signal you have been tracking is not the signal at all, that the real signal is in the residuals, in the part of the data you were trained to discard? The novel follows Lena Vasquez, a gravitational lensing researcher at the University of Chicago, who finds a periodic oscillation in the dark matter density profile of a candidate dark galaxy. That sentence is precise, and it is real. Every instrument, every dataset, every statistical method described in the novel is drawn from actual astrophysics. The Euclid Space Telescope is real. The Nanograv Pulsar Timing Array is real. The Navarro-Frank White Profile is real. Weak gravitational lensing is a real technique used to map the distribution of mass in galaxy clusters, including mass that emits no light. What is not real is the discovery. What is not real is the oscillation. What is not real is the pattern Lena finds, the structure in the dark matter halo that should not be there according to any model of collisionless cold dark matter. She finds something that looks like organization, something that looks like complexity. And the question the novel asks is not whether it is real. The question is what it costs her to take it seriously. Because that is always the real question, in science and in life. Not whether the data is valid, whether you can afford to believe it. The novel is structured in 3 parts. Part 1 is called The Visible, Part 2, The Invisible, Part 3, The Dark. That architecture is not decorative. It traces the epistemological collapse of certainty itself from the things we can confirm through direct observation, through the things we can infer through indirect evidence, into the territory where inference fails, and all that remains is the willingness to look at what cannot be seen and say, "This is here. I do not understand it, but it is here." Lena's chapter titles tell you where she is on that gradient. The 4 clusters. The fossil, the instrument, the anomaly, the calibration. Each one is a noun of scientific practice, a thing she can hold. And then, midway through the novel, the titles shift. The turning, the dark sector, the erasure, the theft. The nouns become actions. The instruments become weapons. Because that is what happens when you find something that the institution did not authorize you to find. The tools of measurement become tools of control. By Part 3, the titles have changed again. The signal, the weight, the telescope, the parking lot. The language returns to the concrete, to the tangible, but the objects have transformed. The telescope is no longer an instrument of observation. It is a place. The parking lot is not a location. It is a reckoning. The novel ends where all serious inquiry ends, not with an answer, but with the full weight of the question resting on a single person standing in the dark, deciding whether to speak. I want to talk about the dedication, because the dedication is part of the argument. The book is dedicated to my incredible wife, Jana, who taught me that the most important things are the ones you have to learn a new language to see. Jana is deaf. Our life together has been, among many things, an extended education in the difference between a language you can hear and a language you have to see with your eyes and feel with your body. American Sign Language does not function like English rendered in gesture. It is a fully spatial language with its own grammar, its own syntax, its own capacity for abstraction. It encodes meaning through hand shape, location, movement, palm orientation, and non-manual markers, including facial expression and body posture. When Jana signs, she is not translating from English. She is thinking in a language that operates in three-dimensional space. And the experience of learning to see that language, of training my eyes to read grammar in motion the way I was trained to read grammar on a page, changed how I think about observation itself. It taught me that the instruments you use determine what you can detect. If you are only listening, you will miss everything that moves. If you are only measuring light, you will miss the 85% that does not shine. That is the connection. That is why the dedication is not a pleasantry. It is a thesis statement. The Dark Matter People is a novel about the cost of seeing something that the instruments were not built to see. And the instruments are never just telescopes. They are languages. They are institutions. They are the habits of attention that tell you where to look. And more importantly, where not to. There is a Lovecraft epigraph at the front of the novel. The most merciful thing in the world, I think, is the inability of the human mind to correlate all its contents. That line is from The Call of Cthulhu, published in 1928, and Lovecraft meant it as a warning. He meant that if we could see the full picture, it would destroy us. The universe is too vast, too indifferent, too fundamentally alien for the human mind to comprehend, and our sanity depends on the limits of our perception. I disagree. Not with the observation, with the conclusion. Yes, the universe is larger and stranger than our instruments can measure. Yes, 85% of it is dark. Yes, the full picture would overwhelm us. But Lovecraft was wrong about mercy. The merciful thing is not ignorance. The merciful thing is the human capacity to look at the incomprehensible and decide to study it anyway, to point a spectrograph at Andromeda knowing that you might find something your career cannot survive, to write a paper knowing it will be dismissed, to stand in a parking lot in the middle of the night and look up and know that everything you can see is the exception, not the rule. That is what Vera Rubin did. That is what Lena Vasquez does. That is what any person does who refuses to mistake the limits of their instruments for the limits of reality. The science in this novel is real. The discoveries are not. The question is open. That line is in the author's note, and it is the most honest sentence I know how to write. I did not want to write a novel that answered the dark matter question. I wanted to write a novel that took the question seriously enough to dramatize what it costs. Not in grant funding, not in publication metrics, in the currency that actually matters, the willingness of a single mind to look at the data and trust what it sees, even when every institution in her life is telling her to look away. The Dark Matter People is available now from David Bowles Books. You can find the ebook on Amazon, order the paperback, or download a beautifully formatted PDF from bowlesbooks.com in case you want to try before you buy. For the Human Meme Podcast, I'm David Bowles wishing you a bright evening and a more wonderful tomorrow. Thanks for listening. Be a human meme.